And welcome back to another episode of Casey Campbell's Videocast. Of course, I'm Casey Campbell from Great Lakes Post. Joining me right now is Brother Rice Athletic Director Jeff Calcaterra joining us. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well, Casey. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, it's been probably a busy few months for you trying to, even though there's no sports going on there is a lot of activity going on in the Brother Rice Athletic Department. What exactly, give us an update on what's going on in there.
Well, I think, in March, it was trying to manage the crisis as it unfolded, whether that was calling our swim team, who was en route to Holland for the state championship, dealing with our hockey team, who was in the Final Four, and kind of postponing at that time that Final Four hockey game on that Thursday. And then from there, it was, trying to make decisions with our school leadership on what was happening in the school, listening to the state's directives and things like that. And that was kind of managing our young people, our young men's lives at that point. The disappointment with the end of the winter sports and the disappointment with putting the spring sports on hold at that time and trying to manage with our coaches, and that trickles down to our student athletes and kind of the emotions and those disappointments that our young men were going through at the time. So a lot of that was via emails, via group chats, and letting our coaches be able to communicate with our young men on various levels.
I know you've had periods of time to check in, and I know COVID-19 has had some effects on the Brother Rice community as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all not immune. There's a lot of people in our community that have tested positive. We haven't experienced anything like what the metropolitan Detroit area is experiencing, but it's touching everybody. It's touching every school, every community that's out there, and Brother Rice is no different. So we're working, diligently with our leadership to try to manage the situation from a distance learning platform, which fortunately Brother Rice was well suited to move into this type of learning environment, because we had introduced an iPad program and platforms that were remote and had already done some distance learning throughout this year. And we're going to expand on it next year. And so once we hit the situation where we were now all at home, our faculty and our students have already been comfortable in this type of platform. And so I think we didn't miss a beat. And I have a senior who's graduating in 2020. And so watching his day-to-day interaction with his faculty members, with his assignments, with doing submissions online and things like that, it was no different than what they've been experiencing outside of the in-person, face-to-face lectures and being able to do the Q&As and everything on site from an academic model. Brother Rice was, I think, ahead of the curve than some of the other schools that are in our area.
When you look at, I know from a sports perspective, what's going on right now in regards to fall sports next year. Have you had any directives from the MHSAA on that? I know I asked Mark Ewell a bunch of questions this week. Have you talked to the MHSAA, or have the 80s have been in conversation with the MHSAA at all?
We haven't done it from an individual level. Right now, my department, my staff, we've had weekly check-ins with our leadership within the school. We've had weekly check-ins with the Catholic League. So all the Catholic League directors are meeting once a week on Zoom calls with our league director, Vic Michaels. Vic is on the MHSA committee. And so obviously, there's been topics and things that we've discussed and viewpoints that we wanted to see happen. And obviously, this is a fluid situation and things are changing day by day. And so there was, talk about maybe spring sports getting moved into the summer. Then there was talk about the fall being on time. And then there's talk of, drastic measures of realigning, sports or pushing things back. in changing seasons. So all of it's been hearsay, and there's been topics and discussions. I think that the MHSAA, I think, is working on Plan A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
And they're meeting, I think the rep council's meeting either May 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there, to where they're going to really start to put some pen to paper and really start to make some plans so that we know how to operate. Casey at Brother Rice, and I'm sure with most of our Catholic League members, we're moving forward with optimism that the fall is going to start on time. Yeah. Our schedules are for the most part complete, outside of a few things here and there sub-level, but for the most part, all 4 fall sports are done with scheduling. Our facilities are scheduled. We're ordering equipment, apparel to be ready when August 10th hits and football gets to start. I know our coaches in the football world, Coach K has been, Zoom meetings with players, with coaching staffs. They're still installing, because this is what they would normally do at this time in April and May, do a lot of installation. The real question is going to be summer activities, whether that's team camps, 7-on-7s, conditioning and strength and training and things like that for all of our sports. Those are the things that are in question, but we've been able to put some things in place where we've given the kids workouts, whether it all be body weight type stuff, things that they can do in the yard, conditioning. And obviously, if you're on Twitter, there's many athletes across the state that are throwing videos up of getting work in and doing box jumps or throwing the football or things like that. So the kids are finding creative ways to get outside and do some things so that when it is time to go, hopefully there won't be a large gap physically and mentally coming back.
There's also a virtual horse challenge going on this weekend, planning on it. Boys basketball coach Rick Palmer challenged the big rival, the people in blue, Catholic Central, to a virtual horse challenge this weekend. I know the MIAA, the conference that kind of initiated that starting point, but this is going to be interesting this weekend. And what do you think about all this? And
yeah, I think obviously what we do is for the kids, and trying to keep them engaged and trying to keep them active. There is no better rivalry in the state of Michigan or in the Midwest. And I know I'm biased because I'm an alum of Brother Rice, so I played in those games. I played in that boys' bowl. I pitched against Leo Hutchinson at Catholic Central. Yeah. Those were big games for us, and continue to be, no matter what sport, no matter what level. We could play tiddlywinks or croquet in the backyard, and it would be a competitive, fierce environment. The difference, I think, in our rivalry is the amount of respect that we have for the opponent. We don't fear them, but we respect them. Yeah. And we know that every time we play them in whatever endeavor we're going up against, it's something that is going to be relished. As far as the challenge goes, I think it's great. You got the 2 schools in the Central Division that compete in everything, and to keep those kids active, to have a competitive component to it in a virtual world, I think it's going to be fun. Excuse me. I think it's going to be exciting for both schools, and it's going to be something to watch. And hopefully our boys in black and orange can put that ball in the hole a little bit more than the Shamrocks.
Yeah, and guess what? And then Coach Palmer gets to do it if there's a overtime thing. So that's going to be interesting. I'll be tuning in for sure. So it's going to be fun there. But anyway, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. I know there's been a lot of things going on at Brother Rice, as well as all the other high schools in the state of Michigan and across the country. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll have you on once again.
Casey, I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me. And to all those in Warrior Nation, keep strong, keep safe, go Warriors.